Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about persistence and how to incorporate it in terms of habits and systems. And of course, as always, hit the like and subscribe button for more painting/advice videos just like this. So today we're talking about persistence, and it's probably one of the most important habits/skill sets that you can actually learn in your life, period, because unfortunately, the way the world works, there's a lot of opposing forces on us as human beings. Human beings, we have a tendency to try to create order out of things. So, for example, a garden or build a house out of materials. But entropy is the way of nature, and so all things tends towards chaos. So we are in a constant battle with the laws of physics in terms of creating things that have meaning to us. If you want to create a garden, you have to put in work, and weeds and storms and pestilence and bugs, they will all work against you. All systems are constantly breaking down, and we as humans, for whatever reason, we have a tendency to try to create order out of things. And so nature is against us in that regard, and so as a result of that, things tend to take a long time to complete. And of course, if you give up too early, well, then you will fail to reach your dreams, you will fail to reach your goal. And that is where persistence comes in. It's incredibly important that you actually cultivate this habit, because more likely than not, you are underestimating the amount of work, the amount of time, and the amount of effort that is mandatory, that is required of you in order to achieve the very significant things that you have found in your heart to do. And maybe it's not something that you thought was too significant. You learn about people doing it fairly easily, but to you, for whatever reason, it turns out to be a much bigger deal. It's a lot more difficult. So, for example, you may not have been super talented at a certain subject in school, or maybe losing weight just doesn't seem to be working for you, no matter how much you do. Persistence is absolutely the key for you to overcoming those hurdles and overcoming those obstacles. And now we can do that with several things. Number one, persistence is it's like thinking. It's practice. You can practice that behavioral trait. Persistence is a behavioral trait, and like all things, the more you do it, the better you get at it. Your brain is incredibly adept at automating things that are done repeatedly. That's why, when you're driving a car and you get home and you realize you were basically not even awake for the last 10 minutes, you have no idea how you actually got home, you have no memory of driving. That's your brain working on autopilot. It has memorized the muscle reflexes required for you to drive on the highway and safely get home, to the point where you don't actually even have to consciously focus on it. Your brain just does it for you on autopilot. It's the same for all of our behaviors. If you watch Netflix every single day, well, guess what? Your brain is going to automate you sitting down on the couch, picking up the remote, and turning on Netflix, so much so that you might end up habitually watching a Netflix show before you even realize that you're doing it. Shout out in the comments if that's you. But you can use this to your advantage just by simply understand that what you repeatedly do, that is what you will become. Your brain will seek to automate the things that it does most often, so that it can have room to focus intently on new things, new threats, new distractions. Your brain is always trying to help you survive. So anything that it can automate to divert its attention and energy to the new unknown things, that is where it's going to be very, very key. And of course, when you're trying to learn a new skill, or pick up a new hobby, or start a new business, or go to school and learn, it's all new, so it's all right in the forefront of your mind. But as you continue on, your brain will automate a lot of those things, especially as you get better at them and learn it. But the hard part is getting there. The hard part is actually getting to that point, because a lot of times we quit before we've actually put in enough reps for our brain to automate and make these things a habit. And so how can we make a habit out of persistence when it's so difficult? in the beginning. And this is where designing, being very, very self-aware and building from the ground up in very, very tiny increments in order to lead up to you creating a system that makes it easier for you to navigate your life in a more persistent way. And so whatever that goal is, whatever that thing that you're trying to be persistent at, you want to reverse engineer and be very, very self-aware and reverse engineer the behaviors that are leading you to do that thing or pulling you away from it, and trying to develop a system that makes it easier for you to do that particular thing repeatedly enough so that your brain can actually make a habit out of it, and those habits will lead to persistence. So let's use the gym analogy for a second. So say you've never worked out at the gym before, you have never even been to the gym. Well, going to the gym is going to be a relatively new thing. Heck, putting on gym clothing is a relatively new thing. You have not built a habit out of those things at all. And so it's going to be very, very difficult in the beginning for you to be persistent at it, because it's always in the forefront of your conscious. And if it's new and it's frightening and it happens to stress you out, maybe you're afraid of the unknown, you don't quite know what you're doing, you don't know the proper workouts, procrastination kicks in, because procrastination is typically an aversion to stress. You're feeling stressed about something new, and now your body is trying to move towards instant gratification, whether that's Netflix or eating a chocolate bar or something like that. Your body's trying to move away from the stressful activity. And so knowing this, you can say, hey, let's start with the smallest little thing. And that is, let's just put the gym clothes on. And that's it. And if you do that, don't even go to the gym. Yeah, if you can manage it, go for it. But if you put the gym clothes on every single day, that's going to create new grooves in your mind. And your mind is going to start thinking, hey, we do this every day. Perhaps we should just, make it easier for us to do. And your mind's also going to think, hey, this actually isn't that hard. It's not that stressful. And the stress around that thing can be slowly alleviated. And then you take it to the next level. Well, let's just go to the gym. Maybe don't even work out yet. Let's go to the gym and look at a machine or sit on a machine. Make it very, very small in a way that is comfortable for you, so that you can continue to do it over and over until you make a habit out of that small thing. So you go from having a habit of putting your gym clothes on to having a habit of going to the gym, and then you take it one step further. You have a habit of sitting down on one particular machine and trying your best. Then perhaps you have a habit of checking your workout tracker, and then you have a habit of going on to another machine. And those little habits can actually reinforce your persistence in that particular goal, so that when you do have a hard day and you do have a stressful day and you just genuinely do not feel like going to the gym, you will then have those habits and those systems backing you up. They'll be gunning for you, because putting on the gym clothes, getting in the car and going to the gym, well, you've done that hundreds, thousands of times at that point. That's super easy. That doesn't get in the way. The real work happens when you're at the gym trying to move the weight. But by that point, you've surpassed so many obstacles, you may as well just put in the work, and that can make it a lot easier to stay persistent once you remove as many obstacles as possible and make them habits, and you get your brain to automate it. That can help you being persistent a lot more. And of course, building in systems so that you don't deviate from these habits is important as well. And so that's really my thought process on creating persistence from the ground up, especially when you don't have any to begin with. But at the end of the day, if you want it, you got to show up. You have to show up every single day and put in the work, even if it's sloppy, even if it's messy. Done is better than perfect, because perfect doesn't exist. And even if you do something imperfectly, at least you still did it. At least you're still creating new grooves in your brain and new pathways for your neural circuitry to make it just slightly easier for your brain to get started, slightly easier for your brain to attempt. So don't think about perfection today. Think about just getting things done. Sometimes it's just about going through the motions so that your brain can get used to doing it, and you can start creating habits about that thing, and those habits will become a support system for you later on in the future when you're actually trying to pursue excellence, actually trying to really narrow it down and make something amazing and perfect. You'll have those pre-built habits backing you up, especially on days when you just don't freaking feel like it.